Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're now listening to the Powercast, and we have returned because power has returned. So I'm very excited to be able to talk about this show again. I couldn't wait for it to come back. I've been waiting for this day for a very long time. I'm here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How you doing, Rich?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the show.
Indeed. And I'm also here with our new panelist, Mrs. Dana Abercrombie. How you doing, Dana?
Hello, I'm doing very great. Excited to talk about the show.
Good, good. So yeah, that was a pretty eventful premiere for season 4 that just aired. So we're gonna run through a quick recap of some things that happened on the show, and then we're just gonna have an open discussion about that episode in particular and what we think of it. So as we all know, at the end of season 3, Jamie was actually arrested by Angela for the death of Greg, and we know he didn't do it. We know that Sandoval actually did it, but yeah, Jamie is the one that takes the fall because Angela, she's emotional, she's upset, and I guess the evidence that she finds at Greg's apartment leads her to believe that Jamie did it, and yeah, so he gets locked up. And then at the start of this episode, I like that song, by the way, that they play, the monster. They made a monster out of me. Like, I like that song. But yeah, we see Jamie getting processed, and he's put in prison and everything. And then it's revealed that Tommy was the one that hid Lakeisha from Milan. We see a scene where he goes to visit her and everything. And then he gets a call from Tasha about Tariq because she believes that he's been kidnapped. Then Tommy goes to Dre to find out, where Tariq might be and everything. Then Dre turns up at Kanan's place to get Tariq back because, he knows what's going on. And then, Dre actually negotiates a deal with Kanan where he must pay him, I think it's 50K a week, for his whole squad and everything. So yeah, Kanan's kind of extorting Dre and the drug business that Dre's involved with Tommy and Julio. And then Tariq returns home to his mum, and he tells Tasha that it was a friend that was pulling a prank. He wasn't really kidnapped for ransom and stuff, and she foolishly believes it somehow. And then later we see Proctor talking to Jamie, and he basically tells him to act like he's Jamie St. Patrick in prison and not act like Ghost. So Jamie's kind of forced to play a certain role while he's in prison, and he kind of has to endure a lot of punishment from the people in the prison. And then Proctor also talks to Tasha, and he asks her to try and get bail money because he wants to get Jamie's bail sorted. Then we see feds raid Tasha's home, and Angela finds Tasha's gun. And later on, we see a scene with the new attorney figure, which is I forget his name, but he was in the Fast and Furious movies. So yeah, he's actually joined the cast now, which is interesting. I'm sure he'll play an important part of this season. We see Tasha having difficulties finding the money. She has a breakdown a few times. She visits Ghost, and he tells her to get the money from Dean. Now, Dean was actually Milan, as we found out in season 3. So he's basically telling her he needs to get the money back from Dean, meaning he needs to get money back from Milan, from the drug business, I guess. And then, later on, Jamie, he sees a judge, and they actually deny his bail. So he'll have no bail. And then, as Jamie's returning to prison with his CO, his CO actually gives him an ass whooping, and the CO is played by Charlie Murphy as well. Rest in peace to him. But yeah, that's pretty much the most important things that happen in this episode. But if you guys have any other important points you wanted to bring up, then now is the time for the open discussion. So, Richard, what did you think of the episode?
Well, I thought that the premiere was pretty great. I know everybody has been anticipating the new season after they saw what happened last season. We definitely see Ghost at his lowest point, I would say, so far this season. Yeah, I did want to say yes. Again, I have to agree with what you said, Gary. Yes, definitely rest in peace to Charlie Murphy. I know that he was meant to be in this season for a couple of episodes. Still think he did a good performance. Still unfortunate though that he passed away. But yeah, pretty much just to reiterate, everything that you've already said in the description. Definitely was glad to see that Lakeisha is still alive. I personally think there may be something that happens between her and Tommy because Tommy. She mentioned that he saved her life. So we always know that in this particular show, at some point there may be some relationships that bloom, and from what I see, there is no relationship going on now, unless of course something happens to Ghost in prison, which I do not want to see. So maybe that's something that could happen for Tommy and Lakeisha. The whole Tariq kidnapping situation that got cut very quickly. Although I think it's pretty obvious that Kanan and his crew are still a threat, and they're still a bad influence on Tariq. So I'll be very curious to see what happens with that relationship moving forward. And just like last season, Dre is caught in the middle of all of this, because he is trying to make sure Tariq is okay, trying to make sure that he, takes care of Jamie's wishes, but then also has to now worry about, certain things going on with Kanan. So we'll see how that dynamic goes. And one other quick point that I will make is that, Tommy, him being in charge, it's good to see him in charge. But, I feel as though there may be some conflicts with this whole thing because of certain people, maybe they may not fall in line with what he wants them to do. I feel like that's definitely going to happen because even last season when they were grooming Tommy to take over, it's just a situation where a lot of people doubted him. They said that, he has a bit of a crazy personality. We've known this because of the stuff that we've seen him do in the past. So I feel as though we're definitely going to see some of that stuff happen again this season. And I'll be very curious to see how it impacts him because, he is the leader now. So this is going to be very interesting dynamic to see how it all plays out.
Indeed. Dana, any thoughts?
Yes, I think that this is going to be one of the most strongest seasons because everyone is going to end up revealing their real true intentions of everything. When you have someone who is gone in jail and it's going to end up being a fight and a struggle for people to get to the top. And then it's a separation between it's one of you get to see who people really are, and also you get to see basically it's going to be people at their lowest points. By him going to jail, I think it represented everything that he didn't want in his life. You always dress
Well, you keep
very good private
muting
school.
yourself.
Huh?
Oh, you kept muting yourself for some reason, but carry on.
Oh, he's always dressed well groomed. His kids go to private school, and he's not that stereotypical, drug dealer type situation where he has the front of the club. And for this, you get to see. For me, it's like a slow crack of everything of him basically becoming a stereotype that he didn't want to be. Now you see him in this prison suit. I mean, not the prison suit, but like.
Dana, you're muted.
Oh, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, you're good now.
It's gonna be a struggle of him coming to find out who he truly is in prison, and it's gonna be a fight for the other people who are on top. So for me, I think this is gonna be one of the most powerful seasons.
Yeah, I agree. Like, that episode was very intense, and I can only imagine, like, what's gonna unfold this entire season as a result. Like, we haven't really seen. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. And we haven't seen Jamie this vulnerable before. Like usually he appears to be vulnerable, but then he overcomes it fairly quickly. But this seems like, you know, he might be compromised for a very long time throughout this season. So
Right.
I'm very interested to see how that plays out.
Tariq also probably doing things that you wouldn't think his father kept him from doing.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Tariq's he's at that adolescent age.
Yeah.
So like he's kind of just acting out and rebelling against his father, it seems like, you know, and Kanan is there to take advantage of that. So it's going to be interesting to see where that leads to in the end, because, you know, we saw that kind of coming together in the last season. So I feel like we might get some sort of conclusion to that this season, but we got to see what happens. Definitely once Jamie gets out, or if he gets out, then, you know, I think things are going to take an interesting turn with that storyline, you know, with Tariq and Kanan.
I wonder if he'll be in power anymore, and so it'll be end up him struggling for his position again. Because I think that there's going to be so many betrayals and things that you would have never imagined. I don't really see this season being very predictable.
Yeah.
So a lot if he does live or if he does get out, because anything can happen in jail. Once again, we all know it's unpredictable environments that every single character is in.
Hmm. And don't forget as well, like Kanan probably has a lot of ties to people in prison.
Oh,
So
absolutely. The
maybe at
fact
some
that
point
he
he can
didn't die,
orchestrate something.
there was no type of death or any type of attacks or any type of, you know what I mean, something major and serious. I saw like the first episode opening up with basically Jamie being stabbed.
Hmm.
So I don't know, but I do see a lot of things happening.
I'm actually wondering if maybe Charlie Murphy's character is a friend of Kanan or something, because like his hatred seems to come out of nowhere for Jamie.
I view
I
it
know
as
he calls him a
cheating.
cop killer, but
I view it. See, it's so hard to figure out because I don't see correction officers, exactly being friendly, and they have to deal with a lot of stress and everything as well. So I don't know if it's like
yeah,
him working in on orders or him just being himself. So it could go.
no,
He
if
could
it's
either. Maybe he can end up befriending Jamie. Who knows?
you, you never know. Rich, you got any thoughts on that, the origins of the CO?
Well, I just want to say this now. If somebody had whooped my ass at the end of when I heard that I was denied bail, I definitely would not consider them a friend afterwards. But I must admit, when I saw that scene happen, I know they had to really hit home the fact that yes, this like pretty much everything Dana said about this season. We know that Ghost is very confident, and normally he gets out of stuff very quickly. So for them to show that at the end, that just goes to show you, oh yeah, everything is falling apart for Ghost. There may be some more stuff that will happen as a result of this because he figured he was already going to be out. Um, so we have to see how that plays out. But as for the correctional officer, uh, yeah, I do believe, yes, I do know that a lot of them do go through a lot of stress. They do take out their frustrations on the inmates. Don't really know how much of this stuff is documented or out there, but I do believe a lot of this stuff does actually happen. So it's unfortunate circumstances for Ghosts. I must admit that when I did see the initial fight start, I did kind of laugh, because I'm like, I mean, really, you had to do this too. But I understand, again, they had to hit home the point that, you know, Ghost is very vulnerable this season. It may not all work out the way he would anticipate. So we're going to have to see how it all plays out. Hopefully, his attorney can get him off. But it's going to require a lot of things. So we have to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of Proctor this season. And I actually like his character a lot, so that's not a bad thing at all. I'll be interested to see how he manages to defend Ghost, in this case, in this trial. Um, So
Oh,
yeah, going back to, oh, go ahead.
oh no, one thing I was just going to add, as you said about Proctor, one thing I'm glad that they showed is that Proctor does also have a bit of a family. He does have a younger daughter, and that gives you a little bit more into the more dynamic into the relationship that he has with Jamie, because you know he obviously knows he has kids as well. So trying to fight to prove he's innocent. So I'm glad that they showed that, because last season we just see Proctor. I don't really think we've ever seen his daughter. Maybe he doesn't have a good relationship with his wife. Obviously, you know, they're divorced, as you also see, but you do know that he has a kid, and I think that was important for them to show. This character also has other things going on in their personal life as well. But yeah, I just was going to add that point.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we'll probably get to learn a lot more about his character, which is cool. So yeah, going back to Tommy, I know you mentioned he's probably gonna have a fling with Lakeisha. But what's in store for him this season though? Because it seems like there's going to be a lot of focus on Jamie, you know, being away in prison and everything, and then you know the trial trying to get him out of prison and all that stuff. Seems like that's where this season is heading. But you know, Tommy, he's in charge of the drug business. But from what we've seen in previous seasons, that he's not like a great leader at times. Like he's very reckless, and sometimes he can make bad decisions. So, like, what do you feel is in store for Tommy this season? And do you think that it do you think that there may be a situation where Kanan kind of finesses his way into the drug business and gets rid of Tommy somehow? Go ahead,
Well,
Rich.
well, I think that, you know, one of the big things about that we've seen since the series has started, we saw it a lot last year, was that everyone is under the impression that, you know, Ghost is always in charge. He's always the top guy. You know, when he got put away, everybody was worried about, well, is he going to talk? Is he going to snitch? All this other stuff. But even if he wasn't going to snitch, everybody is concerned, because you did see the scene where Tommy had the meeting and everybody was asking about what's going on with Ghosts, and obviously wants to try to conceal some information. So I think this is a situation where everybody still sees Ghost is still the guy with the most power in charge, even though he is not actually involved in the drug business anymore. But because of his stature, whenever you think of Tommy and Ghost, you always think of Tommy as the right hand man. You never think of him as the leader in charge. So I feel like this season, you know, yes, you'll probably see some reckless behavior from him, because we already know that this is how the character is based on stuff that he's done in the past. But this is going to be a test for him to see whether or not he can actually become a real certifiable leader throughout, because again, he has to prove to a lot of people that he is capable of leading, um, and not failing. Now, what I can say so far, based on what we have seen with the first episode, is that I definitely think there's going to be some conflict. We know that Julio, I believe he is now distro, and I know that they had a lot of instances where he came into the club, he's telling Dre what he's doing, so on and so forth. So I feel like this maybe might be a power struggle with some of this stuff, because I just feel like, you know, Dre is on board to help Tommy, you know, but I feel like there's going to be some conflicts with these relationships all throughout. And because Tommy is so reckless with the way he does certain things, I do feel as though you are going to see some things that happen. You know, I don't know if it's going to happen between him and Dre, or maybe even something with him and Julio, who knows? But I just feel like him as leader, there's going to be some good things and some bad things that happen as a result of that. Um, but ultimately, again, this goes back to, this is a test for him this season to prove whether or not he truly belongs in that role as a leader, because a lot of people still doubt him. And I'll be very curious to see how the character grows, because I think by the end of the season, the character will definitely be in a different place. I mean, he'll still be seen as Ghost's right hand man, but he'll really come into his own as a character. And, you know, the actor does an excellent job playing Tommy. So I'm very curious to see how that whole relationship develops over time. So we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, and I think there's going to be a lot of trust issues as well between the different characters. Like for example, him and Dre, because if he's going to continue to work with Dre in some capacity, then that's going to create a trust issue because we know Dre is kind of like a double agent at this point because he has some sort of relationship with Kanan as well. Um, and it seems like Dre doesn't actually want to be involved in Kanan with Kanan, like in terms of him paying him money and all that stuff. But I don't know. It seems like he fears him for some reason. So maybe there's a chance that Dre might turn on Kanan at some point. But the fact that he's still kind of dealing with him, that presents a trust issue between Dre and what's happening with the drug business and Julio and Tommy and everything. And then also with Jamie in prison, I'm sure at the back of Tommy's mind um, he might be scared that Jamie's gonna flip on everyone and give them up at some point. So that also is gonna create an interesting dynamic as well. Dana, what's your thoughts on Tommy this season and what may
I
happen with his
Tommy
character?
is reckless. That's the problem. I do see him coming into like an inner turmoil of wanting to take control because he is the right hand man, and I think that that is going to happen. But I also think because of his recklessness, he's not going to succeed. And I see while Jamie is in prison, he may come to certain realizations about Tommy, and it could end up being a showdown between him and Tommy at the end. But I don't exactly see Tommy lasting that long. If he knows his place and plays his role, then I see him being able to succeed and slowly rising up to the top. But for right now, the way how he's going, I don't exactly see him being much of a threat to Jamie. If Jamie comes out of prison, he'll probably have to be the one to deal with him.
Yeah, we've seen them kind of be at odds with each other
Yeah, and
before.
I think
At one point. I'll
yeah,
go.
it'll come down between those two because I think at the end, what you're gonna end up having is of Tommy would be like saying, "Why can't I be just like you as well, or greater?" And you see that conflict that they've had, that they've slowly brought in. And I think with Jamie being in prison, you'll get to see more of that. And then Jamie, I kind of see it as Jamie becoming more paranoid when he's like, if you're locked away and you no longer have contact of what's really going on the outside, you can end up becoming more paranoid behind that. And so you never know what could happen to Tommy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've seen them, be at odds before, but there always seems to be this underlying loyalty and respect between them, even, when they're not on best of terms.
Yeah, but for
So,
how long?
yeah, yeah, well, I guess we got to see what happens with that. But as for Kanan, how
Oh,
long do you think? Oh, go ahead. Was you going to say something?
oh no, I was gonna say one last thing about Tommy. I'll come back to that later, but go ahead, continue.
Oh no, you can go ahead because I'm gonna put the focus on Kanan. So
Okay, so one last thing I will say about Tommy is one thing that I did notice in this particular episode. Um, well, as I said before, I do believe something will happen with him and Lala. I think that's pretty obvious, because again, there's nobody else that you can show in a relationship at the time. So I think that is going to happen. But one thing I think is eventually going to come to light. I don't really think Tommy has really dealt with the Holly situation from last season in full. Obviously, he did get Jamie's assistance in burying the body, but I really don't think he's really come to terms with that yet. Still, and that may be something he also reflects upon as he goes deeper into this season, because I just feel like that's something that it hasn't really been addressed yet. But I do think he's going to have to deal with that. In addition to if this thing falls apart with the group that he's currently in charge of, but we'll see how that all plays out.
yeah, very true. So yeah, going back to Kanan, like how much do you think he can, manipulate the situation from the outside without you know, having it revealed that he's actually alive. Like, how long will this charade continue, do you think? And what's his ultimate goal? Because like we know that he's he's now got that deal with Dre where he's going to be getting money and everything, but like at this point I kind of feel like we don't know what he's planning next and what he ultimately wants, because like he's happy that Jamie's in prison and everything, and he's happy to be taking the money from, you know, the drugs, but I feel like he needs a bit more motivation. His character needs something more to work towards, I think. So what do you think that's going to end up being in the long run? Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, so I think with Kanan, you asked how far can he go. I think he can go very far. One thing to remember last season, when it was revealed that he survived, his instinct was to go right after Ghost immediately. But then, of course, we had Jukebox to try to convince him to think about a smarter way to really mess with Ghost, and that was when he decided to target his son. So I think his son has been doing some real stupid stuff. He's getting involved with the wrong people. So I think that relationship is going to develop even further. And I don't necessarily think it's going to be for the positive. I think he may continue to do even more worse stuff. And the thing about it, all along, because he told his son Tariq that his name is Slim, that people are going to be like, well, he has a bad influence to some guy named Slim, but he never ever told him what his real name was. So I feel like Kanan can get away with a lot of stuff by virtue of having Ghost's son do all these other bad things. Just being around to be a bad influence, getting him high on lean, so on and so forth, stuff like that. So I feel like that is ultimately what he's going to do, is to really make Ghost's life a living hell by trying to do stuff with his son. Outside of that, though, yeah, what Dana mentioned earlier, yeah, he could very easily. We know for sure he does have ties to the prison system, so maybe he may decide to try and have Ghost killed in prison. We never know, but yeah, I feel as though he's definitely is hurting Ghost in the worst way now, because Ghost doesn't even know that his son is doing stuff with Kanan. So that definitely is not going to be a positive outcome for that whole situation. And I do think he will take a much smarter approach now, because he does have Jukebox always, working for also working as a cop herself, a dirty cop, and then being there to just, give a little bit more advice as to how he should look at the thing. So I think as long as he has her in his corner, he's more dangerous than he's ever been, even before this season. But yeah, I think Kanan is definitely capable of a lot more, and we're going to find out a lot more about that as the season goes on.
Yeah, interesting theories there. And about Jukebox, like how is she even still a cop? Like, because isn't she like based in DC or something? Like, does she have a lot of vacation time or something? Like, that's kind of hilarious.
That's a good question. Hey, well, listen, maybe they made so much money on the last score that now she said, okay, well, I think I'm gonna take a little bit of extended vacation. You never know, but I'm pretty sure she's definitely getting a cut of whatever money it is that they do with some of these scams. So we'll see.
Yeah,
But
because
good question.
she was the one who kind of haggled the deal and made Dre pay them more money. So yeah, she's definitely like in the mix and loyal to Kanan at the moment. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, having her around will be interesting. So yeah, how about, oh, firstly, go ahead, Dana. You got any thoughts on Kanan?
Yeah, I view Kanan as being. You remember Shakespeare? Remember Othello? Remember Iago? And how he was the guy who was always whispering in everyone's ear and turning everyone
Uh-huh.
against each other. And you never
Wow, she
you
went
never
to
really got to
Shakespeare.
see him.
Yeah.
But I view him as that. He is the silent guy who's going to take Tariq and basically turn him in and get to Jamie through his son. And I see Jamie, as you said earlier, he's at that point now where he can go either way. And he's like very confused in his life, and he's angry and he's acting out. So I think that the greatest way to get through Jamie is the son. And he's going to end up turning him against him. And as you said, he used that different name now. So no one knows who he really is and what's really going on. And the son, I think he's so blinded by whatever anger he's dealing with that he's not going to be able to really process why he's being manipulated. So
Yeah.
for me, I don't really see Kanan as like being seen in like every episode and being really big part of what's going on, but I see him doing a lot of behind the scene work. And everyone still thinks he's dead. So he's gonna just be he's gonna be hanging out behind the scenes, causing a whole bunch of chaos.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. I definitely feel like they need to know that he's alive this season, though. Like, you know, maybe
No,
towards the end of the
no,
season. What was you saying?
It's perfect if no one knows.
Yeah, but I feel like they
Really?
need something big for the end of the season. They kind of need a
No,
big
at the
reveal.
end,
So
maybe at the next season, and he's like, "Hey, I've been alive." But no, I think his strongest point is by everyone thinking he's dead.
yeah, I guess we'll see how that
You
plays
can
out.
do whatever you want and get away with whatever if people think you're dead. No one's looking for you. You're dead.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And I feel like Kanan wants to kind of mold Tariq into what he wanted Sean to be, like into the son he wanted Sean to be.
Yes.
So that's also interesting parallel there. So yeah, going to Angela, because she's definitely going to play a big part in this whole you know, ghost trial, because she is the one who had him arrested. She was also the lover of, you know, the victim, the guy Greg who was actually killed last season. And she also had a relationship with Ghost, as we know. So like she's a big part of the problem right now. And you guys see her, you know, because I kind of feel like in the back of her mind, I feel like she knows that Jamie wouldn't do it, but I feel like, you know, it's just all her emotions and her frustrations with Ghost. I feel like that's what's kind of you know, taking over her logic at the moment, and you know, making her so focused on bringing down Ghost. But do you feel like at some point there might be some sort of switch, or you know, some sort of change in her approach on things? What do you think, Rich?
I think that could be a possibility moving forward. But I also feel like, you know, to be quite honest, she is a woman scorned. As you know, you look at the situation, she feels as though Jamie was involved. So obviously, you know, because of that, now she's extra motivated to try and take him down. What I don't really understand, and obviously we'll probably get more answers about this throughout the season. I mean, they obviously need more evidence to say that he was involved. So I kind of feel like it's a little ridiculous to arrest someone based off of just the fingerprints alone, when there is you didn't really find a murder weapon, you didn't really find anything. But that was all based on the suspicion that, oh yes, he was there, so he must have been involved. So hopefully they dive into more with the evidence. We can find out other reasons as to why they would come to the conclusion that he had to be arrested. But as for Angela, yeah, I mean, I can understand she is conflicted in the current situation, but she entered into this complicated relationship with Jamie from the very beginning. So we knew, I think, as viewers, that this particular situation wasn't going to end well, because we saw last season, you know, it felt like everything was too good. And then there were instances where you had the kids come over, and then they had the issue with that, then the trust issues, all of that stuff we knew wasn't going to end well. So I feel as though maybe in the future she will try to turn again and try to help Jamie. But I feel like as though that relationship will never be the same again, because of the fact that she arrested him. Maybe he can eventually forgive her if things do turn over in their favor. But I don't think you will ever see these two get back together again, ever, because too much has happened. His image has been, you know, destroyed. Reputation is down. The club appears to be fine for now. I don't know if that's going to last, but I just feel as though he lost a lot of because of that. So we'll see how things play out. But as for Angela, yes, I understand it's a very conflicted situation. I don't feel too sorry for her, though, because she put herself in some vulnerable places. But we'll see what happens ultimately between both of them as the season goes on.
Yeah, what you said is correct. Like, I don't think they can go back from what's happened. Like, I definitely don't think they'll have, you know, I don't think they can reconcile and, you know, be together again. But I do feel like they still carry some sort of inner love for each other. And I feel like that might, you know, manipulate certain things moving forward. But there's no going back from this. I think like this is like the ultimate disrespect from Angela, you know, having him arrested at his club and everything, you know, like yeah, I don't feel like there's any going back from it.
And one last thing I will add before Dana gives her thoughts. The other reason why I say this relationship is forever destroyed, you know, we also recall that Angela also went to his home. They searched his home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we do know that his daughter Raina, she already now doesn't like Angela. So the kids have even more of a negative view of her now as well as Tasha. So I feel like no matter what, even if she ultimately ends up helping him in the future, you know, whatever may happen, that relationship is over for good. And no one likes her. No one in the family, nobody. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So Dana, any thoughts on Angela?
There's no way they're getting back together. I don't think so. I mean, you put a man in jail. I don't exactly see him running back into your arms, being like, "Baby, I love you." Granted, they're very passionate towards each other, and that's kind of what brought them together in the first place. But that's kind of low, and that's kind of like unforgivable at that point. And I think Angela, in the end, will probably be the one who suffers when she realizes that it wasn't Jamie, and then she'll realize everything that she did, and she basically screwed it up. And I think that maybe there might be some type of revenge. I don't know if it's because of the love and the passion that they have. If um, Jamie could probably kill her. Who knows? I see them as both being very angry people, and you do a lot of things in anger, and he could actually just end up just getting rid of her.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
my
I
my
also
take.
I also feel like Angela's job like maybe in jeopardy after this case as well. Like as if Jamie does get off from like the trial and everything, then I feel like that puts Angela in a very tough spot in terms of her career.
Oh yeah,
So
no, her career's I don't no, her career's gone. She'll
yeah.
have she lost the job. She lost Jamie. She lost her reputation. It's over with. She'll probably lose her life.
So what impact do you think that would have on the story if, you know, Angela is removed from her position? Because then, you know, she won't be an agent anymore.
Um, I still see her being nosy. So I think that she will end up finding out a lot of things and a lot of revelations, but there won't be anything that she can do about it. But I still see her trying to influence other people so that they can get Ghost. Jamie.
Yeah. So she'll kind of be like how Greg was when he was suspended or whatever, like just still,
Yeah.
you know, doing things from the outside,
Because
I guess.
to me, she's nosy.
Yeah.
And women,
Yes.
again, are very passionate and they don't let go of things. Even when they're wrong, they're not letting it go.
Yeah, I could definitely see that being an interesting dynamic in the future. So, with Tasha in mind, do you guys feel like this whole trial and everything that's happening is gonna push Ghost and Tasha back together, or you know, make their relationship a bit more stronger than it was before this season? What do you think, Rich?
I think this is also a very complicated relationship as well. The thing is, again, you know, Tasha, Tommy, they all told Ghost, you need to stop messing around with Angela. And especially when they knew that she was involved with the police, that's when they especially said you need to stop messing around with her. I know that they reconciled briefly last season. I still don't think, though, that relationship is going anywhere. You know, obviously they have the kids, so they always need to be there for the kids. But because it's such a complicated situation, and because of, you know, how, again, all of the actions that Ghost did, it ultimately ends up impacting everyone around him, at least from what we've seen so far this season. So I feel it's going to be hard for anyone to really want to associate themselves with them as far as the love interests are concerned. You know, Tommy, you know, I think that relationship is still strong to a degree because, I mean, they are friends, you know. But just like Dana has said already at the beginning of this particular show, yeah, the whole theme of the season is who will turn. I feel like because of that, you know that there's somebody that is going to turn, and it may be a guessing game as to figure out who. But I feel like if Tasha is put in an even more dangerous position than she is now, I do see her turning on Ghost. Even if it means that she also would have to pay the consequences as well. But in terms of them getting back together, I don't see that happening because, again, he's done too much damage with his marriage. With everything that he has done has impacted everyone's lives for the worse. So unless she really just decides to have a huge change of heart, and she finds herself without a man all season long, and she's like, oh, I really, really want to rekindle this relationship. I mean, that's the only way I see that happening, but I just don't see it happening. And I honestly think that this dynamic works best because then we'll get to see what Tasha's character is all about. She's not really standing, you know, she's standing on her own to try to hold her own ground, try to keep the family in order. So I feel as though this is a good role for her to take on, and I think it's more important than if she did just get back with Ghost and then working together as a team. I feel like everyone being separated is going to give you a chance to see how other characters stand, as well as to really see what does Ghost do in this particular situation also. So, but no, I don't think they're getting back together. I mean, I just don't see that happening, at least not yet. I don't.
Yeah, some interesting points there. Dana, any thoughts on Tasha and Ghost's relationship?
I'm going to tell you what I want, and then I'm going to tell you what I know is going to happen. I feel it. That's going to happen. What I want is for Tasha to completely turn on Ghost and be done with him. He ends up staying in jail. Whatever happens to him in jail, and she ends up taking over everything. That's what I want to happen. And I want her to realize what's going on with her son, and for her to come to realization that Kanan is still alive, and she be the one to take him out. That's what I want. Now, what's going to happen, I see, is that there will be a reconciliation between her and Jamie. And while they're not on the best of terms, they'll be on that co-parenting type terms, and she'll end up going off with her life and finding what makes her happy, and Ghost will have to live with whatever consequences that faces him after he gets out of jail. But what I really want is for her to say screw everything, turn against him because he's put her life in danger, and at a certain point you have to just say no more, and for her to just be like, turn him over and just be the one that rises above, and she'll be like that unexpected thing that we've never thought that was going to happen. But I don't exactly see that happening. I see her coming with some type of, they're not going to be on the best of terms, but they'll be on that I'm not going to kill you, you're not going to kill me, how was your day type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be an interesting turn if what you said you want to happen happens, like, you know, with Tasha becoming, like, you know,
I want that so bad.
fully independent.
Yeah,
that would be
be
interesting.
that stereotypical woman who's like just taking everything and still standing by him. Like,
Yeah,
after a while, you have to have a breaking point.
Yeah, he's done a lot wrong to her. So
right.
Yeah, it's.
And I feel that the way that the show is going, even right now, what we don't know, you know, Jamie doesn't know who he can trust, and everything is, I think, is going to just completely flip, and you see people's true intentions coming out. I think that's what could happen. I think that this season is more like expect the unexpected. We really can't predict anything at this point. So I really, really want that. And I could see that happening with the way the writing is going.
Hmm. What I think will happen is, somehow Jamie gets out, and then, um, I guess Jamie and Tasha will probably be on, the their relationship will be rocky for a while, but then they'll have this Tariq thing to deal with together. I think, the Tariq and, the Kanan thing that's going on in the background and everything. Like, I feel like they're gonna have to deal with that together, and that may bring them closer together as well. So I can see something like that happening in the future. But those are really all the questions I had to ask you guys about this episode. But if there's anything, in particular you guys wanted to bring up, then let it be known right now. Rich, you got anything?
Well, first off, I did want to thank Stars for allowing us to watch the episode. We did see some of the stuff prior to the air date, so I definitely want to give thanks for that. One thing I did want to piggyback on what Dana said. Yeah, just to hit the point home that the season is very unpredictable. I feel as though last season, well, it's just the beginning, really. We've seen that Jamie has tried to be portrayed as someone who has it all together, who tries to appear as though he's clean cut, perfect in what he does. But then we started to see he did get sloppy with, the whole Kanan situation and thinking he killed him, which he didn't, which is very interesting. So I feel as though this season is going to be just like that. It's going to be very unpredictable in terms of what happens to certain characters, what happens in certain situations, because they have to show that this is a character that is again, a human that makes errors just like most of us. And I feel as though the writers are off to a great start. So it was an awesome premiere, and I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the show. But yeah, that's all I had to say.
Cool. Dana, any final thoughts?
So far, I'm happy with what I've seen. I hope they keep it up. I hope it doesn't go completely, crazy and it lose the momentum that the first episode has brought in. I just wish for a great season, and who knows what may happen. That's the best part. That's the best thing about television, is that you don't know what's going to happen. So this show has got it so far. It's got everything right.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely have to give my props to the writing team for Power. Like, they're amazing. This is like, I feel like this is one of the best written crime TV shows since The Wire, which is like my all-time favorite. So yeah, I definitely want to give big props to, everyone who's behind Power, and of course 50 Cent as well, for producing and everything. Yeah, it's a great show, man. And I'm very excited for the rest of this season. But yeah, we'll be back next week to cover season 4, episode 2. So make sure you tune in for that. After the episode airs, just come straight to our YouTube page, or, to the Koalition.com website. That's Koalition with a K. Be sure to check out all of our coverage on Power this season. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll be back next week.